All right.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I was going to call the meeting back into open session. Is there a motion to enter? I think we did that.
Yes.
Okay, we have done. Good. All right. So if we can get started, I'd like to take a moment of silence for our troops and for our public safety personnel, please. Thank you all. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to note that this meeting this evening is being televised and recorded. If there's anyone in the audience recording or videotaping at this time, I would like them to acknowledge so. Thank you, Mr. Roush from the Enterprise.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Ellis will be doing the meeting minutes from the DVD.
All righty. Public comments, Mr. Mulvey?
There was indeed, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim.
Well, okay.
Should I pass it down the other end to let them see too? Okay. Ron, good evening.
Steve,
Welcome.
thank you. Good to be here.
Name and village for the record, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, I'm Ronald Matheson from 7 Wolf Road. And I'm here tonight, again, to talk about the wind farm that we have being built in Plymouth. And my position is that we're devaluating a substantial portion of our town. The homes on the south side of Buttermilk Bay that are staring right at this, my home being one of them, certainly when this project is finished, will lose substantial value. There's a number of other neighborhoods in town that certainly is going to get hit a whole lot harder than mine. Nevertheless, we're concerned about the revenue in this town. We're talking about 2.5 overrides, and here we are letting a portion of town get devalued, which is obviously going to take an awful lot of money out of the town coffers. The next thing I want to talk about is our inaction in addressing the windmills. When we were here a few weeks ago, I rose to talk about it. Since then, they've been working day and night. They've put up 2, half their project is virtually done, working on a 3, working on a 3rd, and what have we done? From what I can see, absolutely nothing. You authorized the Board of Health to hire Attorney Troy. He went in and basically waved his white flag and said, if I pursue this may not be a direct quote, I'm sorry, if I pursue this, I'm going to lose. I don't think we need a person representing us that has the losing attitude. So my next comment here is, I think, and Mr. Troy has also stated that he will not address a jury, not comfortable working with juries. So my recommendation here is, the money's the same, we should go out and hire an aggressive attorney who understands what the problem is, attacks it immediately, because by the time we get off our backsides here, there'll be nothing left to do. Maybe we can stop them from spinning, possibly. Boy, to take one of those things down is going to be a huge project. We've got to act on this, and we've got to act on it immediately. We can't wait another 2, 3, 4 weeks. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Ron, very much. Mary Jane Mastrolangelo.
Mary Jane Mastrangelo from Catomic.
Welcome, Mary Jane.
Thank you. Speaking for myself. I wanted to just bring up the topic of goals and budget priorities to find out when they might be agenda items for the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen, under the charter, is the policy setting group, and, you know, the major definition of policy is what is going to be done, not how it's going to be done. And so through the goals and through the budget priorities that the Board of Selectmen set, the town administrator gets his direction on where he should be focusing his efforts and how he should be constructing the budget to meet the goals of the Board of Selectmen. So I am just, I actually thought there might be goals on the agenda this evening, so I just wanted to have an idea of when you thought that you might be able to address those two items. Or if you would, if you will.
This is a open period of comment by the public to the board.
Okay,
As a point of information, the town administrator shall submit a budget to the Board of Selectmen by on or before January 15th. So what we are planning to do, I'm going to comment tonight about liaisons assignments tonight. 2 members of the board have met to determine goals for the year. We have obviously not met the requirements for the goals, but we will do goals. And I hope within the first 2 weeks of January, prior to the town administrator's handing over of the budget to the board, we'll have priorities and so forth set up for that.
okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And Lydia, is it I should know by now, Manter?
Manter.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Ms. Manter.
Should I wait?
I'm sorry?
It's an agenda item. Should
Oh,
I
no,
wait?
please wait, because then we can actually discuss it. That'd be great. Thank you so much. Okay, minutes for November 24th.
Yeah, we have minutes, Mr. Chairman, for November 24th for a brief meeting that was held in the lower conference room of the town hall. And I, after review of the 1 page of minutes, would move approval.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November 24th. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, the next set of minutes is December 1st, 2015, and in my review of the minutes, I noticed it was a typo on page 6. Mr. Meyer, yes. Mr. Pickard, yes. Mr. Mealy, 0-yes. So, just a correction for the, in that, just above voted, Tom, on page 6. If you look at the roll call, not the roll call, but the vote, Mr. Bland suggested mitigation funds, then it goes Mr. Meyer, yes. 6.
0. See the
6.
capital
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I'd move approval with the, that correction of that typo on page 6.
Any other comments or corrections? If not, is there a second for approval with that correction? So noted.
Just a point of clarification. If you go back to the November 24th minutes, if you look at vote to sign a permanent bond, it says SOL, there's no D on it. Underneath
Yep,
502.
got it.
All right, let's go back to the minutes of the first, if we would. If there is a second to the motion to approve with the noted correction to my name?
Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes as submitted and corrected on December 1st. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Correspondence, Mr. Blanton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's only one letter in correspondence. It's short. Would you like me to read the letter or just give a synopsis?
At your pleasure tonight. We're in a festive mood, so.
Well, then with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and read the letter. This is addressed to all the selectmen from Mr. James Deneen. He's a resident of 260 Circuit Ave, Pecasset, Massachusetts. And his subject is Hen Cove Beach status and request. On October 22nd, 2015, a group of Pocasset residents attended a scheduled meeting with the Town of Bourne Shore and Harbor Committee to convey the current Hen Cove Beach conditions and to seek guidance on how to address the rocks in the swim area. The committee was very helpful with ideas and suggested the town could have several deep rakings of the beach, especially to the low tide line. This would remove all surface rocks and many of the subsurface rocks that could, eventually, be a future problem. After the completion of the rock removal, it would be a benefit to receive some sifted sand from the town landfill that would top dress the beach swimming area. I do not recall these rocks being exposed immediately after the 2011 dredging. However, with time and tide, it would seem the rocks appeared after the silt and sand settled out. This proposal by the Shore and Harbor Committee would be a viable solution to the Hen Cove Beach current conditions. Anything you could do would be most appreciated. Respectfully, James Deneen.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Carino.
a couple of points on that. The DPW will look to do some of that raking as much as their equipment will allow after the winter, and after things settle out, doesn't make sense to do that now. The issue relative to bringing landfill area, sand down to the beach is probably not going to pass muster with the Conservation Commission because of the different nutrient pieces with that. It gets beyond my expertise, but when I do remember when discussing that with some issues we had down on Sagamore Beach a few years ago, it's not the same type of sand. Again, it's beyond my knowledge, but I certainly will bring it up with the conservation agent. But we are aware of the rock issues, and we intend to, with what our equipment will allow to pull out, we will.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, Jane.
I'm curious about whether the removal of the rocks is a subject for conservation to
They both
consider
would be,
also. I'm really interested
We've
their
raked beaches before.
with deep breaking. Yeah, that's
I
interesting.
don't know how deep, but we certainly go down to where the low tide mark is.
I think depth
Yeah.
into the sand as opposed to how far down the
Right.
beach. Yeah.
Right, and I'm interested in that.
Some kind of clam. We could have a clam bake after.
Okay. I have one other letter that we received. It was an email that was sent, forwarded to us. It's from Chief Woodside of the Police Department. And this is from Phil Lamourie, and he is addressing to Chief Woodside. Please accept this email as an episode of the professionalism of your police officers. Thus, I wanted to read this evening. To be specific, I had 2 incidents which required assistance from your offices. On 11/28/15, I was involved in an accident where I was sideswiped by another vehicle by the Mass Maritime Academy. I'll not provide the details, but the person in the second vehicle called the police, and Officer Bevilacqua, thank you very much, gentlemen, arrived on the scene. The person in the vehicle that hit me was very irate. The officer handled the situation very professionally, and were all able to leave the scene without further escalation. And then during one of the blizzards last winter, I got stuck in an unplowed road. I worked for the state and was in a state car, an MBTA car, and was coming home from an emergency call-out. The snow was halfway up the front of my door, and I could not get out of the vehicle. After 3 hours of calling others for help, I called the Bourne Police Department. An officer came by and evaluated my situation, and within 5 minutes, there was a tow truck there by a private company with 3 men that got me out of the situation. I did not get that officer's name, but did call the station to express my gratitude. I just wanted to send this note to you to express, as you probably already know, that you have an excellent team of officers, and if you can ever do anything to show my gratitude, like volunteer for charity drive, et cetera, please let me know. So kudos to the men and women of the police department. Okay. We have this evening a presentation. This is item 7 on the agenda by the Compassion Care Clinic. And I would open that up to you at the floor to address the board, and then we'll entertain any questions or discussion. And welcome.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Stormo. I'm the Executive Director for Compassionate Care Clinics. This is Holly Carroll.
Good evening.
She's my Director of Patient Care for Compassionate Care Clinics. And then I have Dr. David Aubrey here, and he's my COO, CFO, acting for the company out of good faith. So again, my name is Michelle Stormo. I'm the Executive Director of Brighton Health Advocates Incorporated, doing business as Compassionate Care Clinics. I incorporated this nonprofit organization in 2013 in response to the Massachusetts law allowing marijuana for medical use in Massachusetts. I will give you a brief history of my professional experience, the background of the company, and what brings me here tonight. I have spent the last 15 years of my professional career treating mental health and substance abuse in nonprofit organizations. I worked as a family addiction counselor at a prominent addiction treatment center and saw one example after another of how prescription for pain management led to opiate abuse and drug addiction. My work as a family counselor was a daily barometer of how widespread a problem addiction has become in our communities. Opioids, once prescribed to help relieve extreme pain, are now prescribed with very little medical oversight. Opiate addiction is now considered a major health epidemic and has touched most of our lives personally in some way. My experience with patients and their families is what led me to form a medical marijuana nonprofit. Many of the patients who use opioids for the relief of debilitating pain have reported that the use of medical marijuana has given them the relief they need without the addictive quality of opioids. Recent research, and I'm happy to provide you with that research if you're interested, has shown that states where medical marijuana has been implemented have seen an average 24.8% decrease in opiate-related deaths. Pretty significant, and that's just over the first year. Compassionate Care Clinics was selected by the Department of Public Health in January of 2014 as one of only 20 companies in the first round of more than 180 applications to operate an RMD in Massachusetts. My team had originally found a discrete location in Fairhaven to site our RMD. We gained community support and worked collaboratively with the town to establish zoning and obtain a special permit to operate. However, under intense media scrutiny, the DPH chose to remove 9 out of the 20 successful applicants from the licensing process. We pursued legal action, and 1 year later, the judge ruled in our favor. We have already found a host community for dispensing marijuana for medical use, and we are seeking a host community for cultivation and processing. We have already completed most of our security protocols and will exceed what DPH requires to ensure safety for the community and for our employees. We would prefer input from the local police department and want to collaborate on developing a security plan for our proposed location, if approved. We will provide the community with up to 50 full-time jobs with competitive wages and full benefits. Due to our unique situation, we are looking to expedite the opening of our facility, and we are interested in a property up on Clay Pond Road. We have spoken at length with the current lessor and the property owner and would like to move forward with an intent to lease. We are interested in collaborating on a host town agreement. A host town agreement is something that we would sit down and negotiate that would bring unrestricted money into the town from year to year with Bourne, and ask that you consider signing a letter of support or non-opposition for us to operate in Bourne for cultivation and processing only. A couple of things that are different about our organization. Holly and I have over 30 years of experience in the substance abuse and mental health profession. Our passion in coming into this business is to put money back into the community towards education, prevention for substance abuse. We intend to offer free sessions, like we can't call them counseling, but sessions with patients and their families that come into our center so that we can provide direct referrals If a patient that's suffering from a very debilitating condition has a co-occurring mental illness or substance abuse disorder, we can provide a direct referral, direct access to treatment. So we can be another touch point for people who are potentially suffering from multiple problems. We intend to form a charitable organization. In Massachusetts, RMDs have to be nonprofits, which means the money has to go somewhere. So we are going to open or found another charitable foundation, and we are going to put monies into that fund and invite 2 members from our host community to sit on that board and decide where that money is put. So again, putting that money back into the community in whatever way the community chooses. So I would like to ask if anyone has questions and invite at least Holly if you want to join me here.
It might be helpful not only for the members of the board, but also for the members that are watching, the residents and so forth, just to read the application process. And this is from the, and it'll take just a minute, it's from the Department of Health Medical Use of Marijuana Program Guidance for Municipalities regarding the medical use of marijuana, which was updated last in August of 2015. So I just want to read just the application process aloud so people at home can understand what the is before the town and what our responsibilities are. As an overview, the Department of Public Health will evaluate the applications received on or after June 9th, 2015 on a rolling basis, with priority given to the review of applications proposing to cite a registered marijuana dispensary, an RMD, in any open county. Each successful applicant will be notified that they are authorized to proceed to the inspection phase, during which they may seek all required local permits, and when authorized by their community, commence building out an RMD. The inspections phase also includes evaluation of documentation prepared in compliance with the regulations and guidance provided by the Department of Health regarding the operation of a nonprofit RMD. After passing all applicable and local state inspections, the RMD may receive a final certificate of registration. In the role of the municipalities should determine what local permits or licenses may be required if an RMD wishes to locate there, and consult with their town council or city solicitor if there are any questions about the required process. Proposed locations as part of the application process. An RMD applicant should submit an application of intent, a management and operations profile, a siting profile in sequential order. An applicant must be formally invited by the Department of Running in order to submit a management of operations profile or siting profile. An RMD applicant does not inform the department of their proposed RMD locations until the time of submission of the siting profile. Now, the letters of support are non-opposition. The RMDs that may approach municipal officers, and that's why we're here this evening, to acquire letters of local support or non-opposition, which will be required for the siting profile portion of the application. An RMD is required to obtain a letter of support or non-opposition from the host community before it will be permitted to proceed to the inspection phase. In terms of the evaluation, there is no difference between a letter of support or a letter of non-opposition. Either will satisfy the requirement. If the applicant is proposing a retail dispensary, which this application is not, the dispensary location or a remote cultivation facility, the applicant must submit a letter of support in non-opposition for both municipalities. The letter may be signed by a number of folks, including the Board of Selectmen in this case. Each letter requires a particular language to be included, which is specific and specified by the Department of Public Health. Notification of the municipality. After receiving an invitation to submit a management of operations profile, the applicant must then notify the chief administrative officer or equivalent, the chief of police or equivalent, the proposed city or town in which the RMD would be cited, if applicable, and the sheriff or the applicable county, and the intent to submit a management of operation profile and a siting profile. And then prior to opening, before an RMD can open, it must comply with all local rules, regulations, and ordinances, bylaws, as in addition to applicable state laws. So this evening, the applicant is before us asking for either a letter of support or a letter of opposition. Thank you. So that's where we are this evening. And I would open it up to the board for questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ellis.
Good evening. I'd remind the board that in reading this document, Mr. Mealy has informed us as to the law of the Commonwealth, and not all of us agree with the law of the Commonwealth on this issue. And I would bring to your attention, all of us, all five of us, that it says here, under the RMD application process, it says it may seek to require special permits. That doesn't say anything, it's may. Small word, real big meaning. I have a question, young lady, for you. Is this product that you intend to grow, is that FDA approved?
Under federal law, marijuana is still not legal.
You state that under federal law, marijuana is still not illegal.
Correct.
So what you want us to do as a board is to approve a site for you to grow marijuana, which is not legal in the United States. It may be in the Commonwealth, but it's not legal federally, to give you an approval to grow something that's against the law. Is that what you're requesting?
I am asking for non-opposition or support from your board to open a cultivation and processing for the medical use of marijuana. Many people don't even smoke it anymore. It's applied in a salve, it's applied in a lip balm, it's applied with oils. So it's not really, some of what we think about when you think about sitting back and, people smoking pot. It's just not the way that patients are using it any longer.
In your introduction letter of compassionate care clinics, you state in here that you worked with Gosnell.
I worked with a substance abuse treatment facility. I don't think I specified which one, but
It was with Gosnell.
for a long time with Gosnold. I've worked with other ones as well.
Do you work with Gosnell now?
I do not.
Is there any reason why you don't?
I have another job with a different nonprofit.
You didn't have a disagreement over a particular use of the product?
I left there actually to start this company. I left there to go full-time with this company. So that's why I resigned.
In your opinion, does Gosnell support the use of marijuana?
I could not speak for, couldn't and wouldn't speak for someone else. I can only
But
speak
when
for
you were there, did they
myself.
support it?
I can only speak for myself. I would let Gosnold speak for what they,
For the record, I don't think Gosnell does support it.
mhm.
There is evidence, it's just not clear, that for virtually every condition for which medical marijuana is touted, there is a medication with an established track record. Is that correct?
Again,
I'm not a doctor either, I'm just asking you from what I read. Like, for instance, muscle spasticity from MS can be cured with baclofen. Did he want to talk? I'm asking you questions.
it's just my father giving me a, reminding me that I could give the example of my friend in California whose daughter was on probably about 10 medications for seizures. She was unable to attend school. She was gaining weight. She was having really bad side effects from these FDA-approved medications for seizures. She's currently maintained on about 2 drops of CBD oils, which again is extracted from the cannabis plant with very low levels, very low psychoactive properties. So high cannabinoids, low THC gives, a lot of therapeutic effect. So, the patients that I've talked to in my 3 years in attempting to open a registered marijuana facility, it's pretty amazing how much people can benefit, especially from some of the, smokeless options. I've seen patients with psoriasis that's absolutely inflamed and up their arm, and they're applying this salve that has 0 psychoactive effect. And within days, they're less itchy and their psoriasis is improved. So there are definitely people who can benefit from us creating a quality product. We're planning on offering a whole range of really high CBD, low THC options, which is, again, more for what someone who's truly sick is going to go for, rather than the psychoactive effect, of really high THC cannabis. So, again, that's what I've seen in my travels, and I've spent my career helping families who are in need. I'm shifting a little bit and helping families who have loved ones who are potentially have a fatal illness like addiction. I'm also shifting a little bit and treating people who are coming in, able to provide them medicine, but also provide them, if they do have a co-occurring addiction disorder, be able to provide them a direct access to treatment.
In your opinion, is marijuana addictive?
In my opinion, in some of the uses that I just spoke about, the type of use I'm talking about, it is not physically addictive. Absolutely not.
When you grow this product, and you ship it from A to B, is it just done in a van that it's taken there, or is it secured?
There's very strict protocols. If you go to DPH, or I can always, email you some information, their protocols are very specific.
What you should do, if you want to email something, do it to the chairman.
Okay, not to you, okay. The protocols require two people, in a van with a lockbox, signing off, radio contact the whole time. We did meet with Chief Woodside and, kind of spoke with him about what we would be doing, and our transportation procedures would be fully in place. But DPH has pretty strict guidelines about every aspect of security.
Any idea why Fairhaven failed?
Oh, absolutely. And I recommended that some people from the board reach out to Fairhaven officials. We have an excellent relationship with them, still to this day. But we signed off, because we didn't know if our lawsuit would be successful or not. We signed off on another company going into Fairhaven, because they wanted an RMD. So we signed off on another company coming in and taking our place in our facility. So we would have gone back to Fairhaven, if, definitely, but that wasn't an option to go back there.
Did you have much resident opposition when you did this?
Obviously there were people here and there. We open ourselves up to, can email, I like direct conversation. So if somebody from the town had a question or wanted to talk to me, they just could email me. We went and spoke with the senior center, the housing authorities, probably 4 or 5 different housing authorities in the Fairhaven area. So I feel like we kind of got out there and introduced ourselves before people came at us with too many issues. So we certainly dealt with people that had questions and weren't pleased, and I welcome that communication, not an issue.
I think the most important thing is to be as crystal clear as you can be with all of the citizens, because we represent every village in the town.
Absolutely.
And emails can be wonderful and direct, but they're from A to B. If you do something like that, I would appreciate it through the chair that it be made public so that everybody understands what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we are in agreement that marijuana is illegal in the United States.
Under federal law, yes.
Thank you. Just for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Other questions, gentlemen? Mr. Blanton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for coming before us tonight and with another interesting proposal. You're aware this is the second medical marijuana-related proposal we've received in town to date.
Yes.
Questions that I had for those applicants, I'd ask for you as well. Colleague to my left,
It's Jerry.
but I give you the respect you due, sir.
Thank you very much.
Touched on to security concerns, not only security with regard to transportation of product. I'd like to find out what kind of security protocols would be in place around said facility.
Mm-hmm.
We talked at length with the previous applicant about their security protocols, so I'd like to hear about that. Also, the financial accounting piece, because of the concern with regard to the federally illegal status of marijuana as a controlled substance. A number of the banks in the Colorado area were dealing with cash-only operations because federally insured banks would not involve themselves in handling their monies. Be
Yeah.
curious to find out how you're addressing that, or how you're taking care of that. And then lastly, with regard to economic development, one of my focuses, I see you've included several different jobs here, up to potentially 50 jobs.
Yeah, you know, it's a
Any-
ramp-up process, so most dispensaries are looking at, you know, ramping up to 20 or 30 in the first year. And then if we were to, you know, it's up to 50 is kind of what I've estimated.
Do you have any idea what kind of jobs? So give any examples of what these jobs might be. What would they look like for? And would there be any local hiring preference or anything along that line?
Oh, absolutely. So let me address your questions, if you don't mind, just in order.
Not at all.
The first issue was security, and I'm sure we're going to have a similar answer to what the other facility gave you, because it's required by DPH that we have, you know, many cameras on site. I mean, many. We had a full security build out for our last building, and it was amazing how many cameras were around that building. So it's a live feed camera, you know, 24 hours a day. Anytime there's a person on site, a staff member working there, there would also be a security guard on site. Every single person who works there has to have a significant background check. I mean, it's not just your average background check. It goes into everything. So, you know, that helps with the security, certainly. We have a director of security who was 25 years in the state police, and he's been helping design our security protocols. And we have a company that's going to be designing for whatever site we end up on. So it's a redundant system, you know, it's the security system. And I don't know if you want to say more about that, David? Okay. So, I mean, studies have shown in other states where they have cultivation facilities, because of the amount of security, crime in those neighborhoods reduces, because it's such a significant, you know, amount of security. In Fairhaven, we had one of our cameras was set to be positioned to the road so they could catch, you know, license plates if they came in or out. It would be a well-lit area. So if you read any of the regulations, it's pretty amazing. It's a good cost that goes into securing these facilities.
I think the security aspect of it, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please, Mr. Bynum.
The security aspect of it is, I think, even more crucial in this particular location you're discussing, because there is a large housing facility right adjacent to the property. You're also talking about a very well-established neighborhood and in close proximity as well. So I think the security issue, I don't know exactly what the resident feedback's going to be.
Sure.
I'll go last.
Yeah.
I'm sure
we'll find out after
I'm sure you'll
tonight.
find out. And you were going to speak about
Banking, the banking system, I can have David speak to that.
Right. We have found a bank in Massachusetts that will do the banking for us. They charge a significant fee, but they'll do the banking for us. So my understanding of the regulations is that banks that have federal ties, which is every bank in America, are allowed to address medical marijuana, but they just have very strict reporting requirements. So they have to report much more carefully. They have to isolate the money that comes in from the medical marijuana from any other money. I don't know if it smells or what, but it has to be in a separate vault. So they have these protocols which are quite expensive. Most banks decide not to pursue that, but a few banks have decided that they are going to pursue it, and they'll just pass the costs on to the medical marijuana companies. And we have accounts open already.
As well, there would be no cash at the cultivation facility because we're not selling anything. So there would be no money on site ever. I mean, I can safely say. That would be really more of an issue at our site where we're dispensing. That's where the cash would come in, be directly transported from the dispensary to the bank. So,
Picard?
he had one more question about the jobs.
The jobs.
Correct, okay. So, it's a variety of jobs down to, from people who have agricultural experience to actually, help with the growing process. We have trimmers that would be in there. We'd be looking to hire security guards as well. So as long as people can pass a background check, and, have the skills necessary or can learn the skills necessary, to do the job, we would be focusing on local hiring. We already have a potential kind of grow manager position, who's from the local area. So I grew up in North Falmouth, so I have, know a lot of people locally. I lived on Portside Drive for 5 years, so I know a lot of people locally as well. So we'd be interested in hiring local people. Does that answer your question enough?
I
Okay,
think so. Thank you.
thank you.
Picard.
Just a couple if I could, please. Just for the public, you said Clay Pond Road. Mr. Blanton mentioned a housing property near you. Can you tell us the location? Is it the vacant shopping, well, vacant other than the fact that Luke's Liquors and Evans Pizza and so, is that the facility?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You said you're gonna be cultivating and processing only, and you'll be dispensing somewhere else, and you've got an agreement with another community to do the dispensing,
Correct.
and where is that?
Wareham.
Wareham. You have a
A letter and a lease, yes.
letter and a lease, a letter of non-opposition or
Support.
support. And do you have any other, are you going with any other communities for anything?
We have spoken with a town up north regarding cultivation. Being closer has its advantages, certainly. Whether this location will work out or not, whether the town will approve it, I'm not sure. So it's, we're coming to Bourne, and we have spoken with one other town up north.
Do you already have a letter of support from that other
They've
town?
provided a letter of yes for us.
Is that for cultivation only?
Correct.
Okay. You've stated something in your presentation about contributions to the community, so to speak, monetary. I'm not sure your exact terminology. How do you plan to put something in place for that? What is your schedule? Do you have a schedule? Is it based on sales or?
So we've done it a couple different ways. We have, at this point, several examples. In most towns, it's public. It's on their website. You can find what they've done for what's called a host town agreement. And they're kind of all over the board. A lot of them tie to the revenues, percentage-wise. A lot of the cultivation facilities, there's a certain set amount that goes to the town, because essentially we would have two host agreements, one with the town where we're dispensing and one with the town where we're cultivating and processing. So, if you look at kind of, it's all over the board. Some towns have zero financial gain. Most towns are getting savvy at this point and implementing host town agreements. So that's something normally we would sit down with the town administrator and negotiate an agreement. We have, in addition to the host agreement, I alluded to it, we would like to set up our charitable foundation. We will be setting it up, and hope that people from our host towns will sit on that board and decide where that money will go. It's just another way to put, money back into the local community. And Holly and I, having our history with mental health and substance abuse, will also be, investing in the community in that way with prevention and education. We'd like to bring some of the things that are working in other parts of the state in terms of addiction prevention and education, and kind of, bring them to other towns, because if something's working, why not use it across the board?
Have you entered into any host community agreement for any monetary?
Yes,
Amount.
we have host community agreements with the town in which we're dispensing in Wareham, and we've also come to terms on one with the town up north that we've spoken with as
Who's
well.
that?
Holliston.
Holliston. And They're the one that would be more closely associated with what you would anticipate the town of Bourne would be probably getting, because they're a cultivation facility only, and there are no sales, I would presume.
Correct. And again, they're even all over the board for the cultivation piece. So it
Okay.
would be a matter of talking about, what it is that Bourne's needs are.
Yeah, you have, the DPH has a website, and as of December 4th, when I found we were having this discussion, I went on and found that there are about 18 I'll call them vendors or providers that are currently in the process up to and including an approval to sell. I see, number 2 is Central Avenue Compassionate Care Inc. That is not you?
No.
Okay. And then I go down further into the RMDs there, and where they are in their submittal of application. If I look at number 12, it says Brighton Health Advocates. Is that your firm?
Correct.
And I note that while generally all the other entities that applications have been received between 6/29 and 12/2, they all have dates of their letter being submitted, additional information is requested on the application. They've been invited to submit management operation, submitted management letters and profiles up to some additional information, and it gives specifically dates, but I note that there is nothing in any of these columns on this spreadsheet that indicates that you have any dates
Correct.
filled.
And
Have you,
The reason is because of our unique situation. We're the only company that's in this situation we are, because the judge ordered us, that the DPH, it was not legal for them to take us out of the process. We already had a provisional license, so we would have been on the list with those first 18 companies. But because we were removed from the process and put back in, all we have to do is submit a citing profile. So
just a citing profile?
we're like kind of in a different category, if you will, because of and I can provide you guys with the letter from the judge, and the invitation to submit a citing profile. Did we email that to you? Okay, so we can email that to
I
you.
have the
that
3
will-
documents
Okay.
that I sent to the board.
Okay, perfect. So I'd be more than happy to email you our invitation from DPH to submit a citing profile. So that's where we are. It's just, there's no way for them to kind of indicate that on the website. They were trying to figure out where to put us on the spreadsheet, so.
Yeah, there's, let's see if there's anything else in here that I was gonna, look at as a Boston Globe article that states that 9 were eliminated, and your Brighton Health Advocates was one of them. I'm not sure that it exactly, I'm sure it says why, but it's neither here nor there. I don't think I have anything further at this point, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Picard. Mr. Meyer?
What made you come to Bourne when you're gonna be doing business where Wareham's already approved you for a dispensary, and they got property all over the place and empty buildings up there? What made you come to Bourne?
Well, it turns out that Wareham has, they chose to zone medical marijuana to a certain area, and they zoned medical marijuana to the institutional district right over by the hospital.
Yep.
So the building that we are in the process of negotiating a lease is right next to Toby Hospital, and it's not large enough to do the cultivation piece as well. So we're gonna have a really small kind of medical office-like dispensary for patients to come in and get their medicine, but we do not have, there's no building large enough in that institutional zone to cultivate or process. So were forced to go look for a cultivation processing facility separate from our dispensary.
DPA said Brighton Health or BHC contemplate making payments via various revenue streams to a related for-profit management company, Management Recovery Services.
Massachusetts Recovery Services, yep.
I mean, if you're a nonprofit, you're paying a for-profit corporation, I mean, or an entity. Why is that?
So the way that we structured this, and when we opened, again, when we looked to do this, 3 years ago, there were no companies in Massachusetts doing it. So what we did is we talked to companies in other states that were operating medical marijuana facilities, and we said, how did you structure things? Because we needed investors. I didn't have $500,000 sitting in a bank to apply for this license. So we had to go out, speak with investors, talk to them about why they should trust, our business plan and provide us with money. It's kind of a big risk being a new business in Massachusetts. So it was a lot of work getting people to invest. So what we did was we had people invest, and you can't really, get a return and invest in a nonprofit. So we set up a for-profit management company that was, and most companies are doing the same thing now. So we set up a company where Massachusetts Recovery Services pays, for example, certain employees. Because medical marijuana is not legal under federal law, we are taxed up to 50%. I mean, the tax rate is absolutely amazing. So in order to give more money back to the community and not, be paying 50% in taxes, we use a management company to buy some of our lighting equipment, for example, and then lease it back. We've also found that landlords, for example, in Fairhaven, the landlord there wouldn't lease directly to a medical marijuana facility because of the risks. They were concerned. So they leased the building to Massachusetts Recovery Services, and Massachusetts Recovery Services leased it to Brighton Health Advocates. So, our feeling and what we know to be true is that, we set this up with integrity, and if DPH had taken a chance to look at our books and see why, and talk to us and see why we were doing what we were doing, they would not have, came to whatever terms they came to. And as I said, the judge ruled that kicking us out like that was not legal, and put us back into the process. So, $500,000, we've spent about that much and have to get new investors, for this time around. So we really believe in what we're doing. And obviously the investors believe in what we're doing. So, that's the best explanation. I hope that explains to you. And being a nonprofit as well, our books are wide open. So anyone, it's transparent. So, everyone can kind of see where the money's going and what's happening.
Other questions, gentlemen? I have a couple if you'd. Can you talk to us a little bit about schedule? It's 10 days before Christmas and it's 15 days before, or 20 days before the end of the year. What kind of a schedule are you looking for both the town, and also what would happen once this letter was received? What would the expectations be for the town as far as the progress and development of the plan and the opening and the rest?
So let's just say, if the board decided to vote tonight and provide a letter of support or non-opposition, we could, if we got the intent to lease with the Clay Pond building, and depending on the town's response, submit that with our siting profile. If we did not receive that, we would go ahead and submit, the locations we have currently, which is Wareham and Holliston. And then, we could continue conversations, after we submit, because we are submitting a siting profile. Our siting profile is due December 31st.
Okay.
So
That was
that's
the
our
date I was looking for. Okay.
timeline. Again, we've already been set back years, so we're kind of moving forward, trying to get things in line. And let's say, we would hope, we'd keep in communication with the town if we were to move forward with the property, let you know what we've worked out, if you ever had a chance to speak with anyone from Fairhaven, you'd find out, we are very good at communicating with the town, keeping close contact to keep everyone informed. So we would, obviously, in working with the state towards opening, as soon as our inspections were done and we received our provisional license, we would build out the facility and look to start operations.
Any idea what the time frame is from the time you submit? I'm just trying to get an idea in my head of understanding what you're dealing with.
We just haven't even had people bid the building out yet.
Okay.
But we would first start construction on our cultivation facility because we need at least 3 months, of cultivation and processing before we can open the dispensary up. And probably, at least 5-6 months until we can do that.
Okay.
So it's still not, nothing's fast. So.
Thank you. Other questions, Mr. Picard?
Just a question. Trying to refresh my, was there, I believe, refresh my memory, was there any reason that any one of these 9 entities were eliminated from the process because of a potential conflict between members of the organizations and the DPH commissioner?
There were some eliminated for that, yes.
Were you one of them?
We were not one of them, no.
Okay. And that would be Ms. Bartlett, I believe,
Was the previous commissioner,
and
yeah.
where did was she from, like, she's from Cape, I believe. She's got some sort of function down here. doesn't she?
Yeah.
I think she's the
Yeah.
head of Cape Cod Behavioral Health, or she's
Yeah.
working on the Cape.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Chairman, I have a motion, whenever you're ready.
Any other questions? If I might, are there any questions from members of the audience this evening? Mr. Mulvey?
I don't know how this got over there, but
Oh,
just for clarification, if I might, through the chair, first question would be, is there any connection or proposed connection between the previous applicant and this applicant? And the second question, for clarification.
Just so the people at home know that the applicants indicated that there is no relationship with the prior RMD, which received a letter supporting from the town to open a dispensary in a nearby area
No,
on
the-
MacArthur Boulevard. Yeah.
Previous applicant, as I remember it, was what I'd call a full service. They were both going to grow, process, and sale service at
Right.
Dispense only.
It was
One
only,
site.
only
I-
dispense, I believe, Mr. Mulvey.
only dispense, not
Correct. No cultivation
no
or process.
cultivation, all right?
Yep.
So they were looking only for a permit to cultivate,
No, just to dispense. Dispense,
or to just dispense,
Just
not
dispense.
cultivate.
none, that's correct.
All right, they were restricted to that application and
That's
to
correct.
merely dispense. This applicant, clarification, you're looking for support from the town now for
Cultivate.
growth, for cultivation
And processing is what they call it.
and processing.
Yeah.
But your application and then is not for distribution or sale in this town?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And the site you're considering is the same site that the other?
No, it's actually the,
Separate site?
it's actually the old Grand Union
So
on
you
Clay Pond
are
Road.
proposing in this town only for cultivation? And the other applicant is for the distribution or sales?
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mulvey.
Can I just,
Sure. Mr. Picard?
I just, because if you, there is the mechanism by which an applicant can do both.
All three.
They have to do all
Right.
three.
right.
Right, well, what I mean is at the
Under
same
one.
location. I'm not sure what our, what the, but there's like a change in the application or something.
Like an amendment of use? of
Yeah,
some
I
sort?
believe so, and I'm not sure who's got that. But in any case, that was my question. But yeah, go ahead.
Question, Mr. Mulvey?
Yes, and I believe you touched on this. Once these applications are before you, by law, is there a timetable within which you must move on these, or is it open-ended?
I don't believe that we're under a timetable as a municipality, whether we wish to act or not act. I didn't see that in the regulations that I've read so far to date. Have you seen anything, Tom?
No.
Have you ladies seen anything?
I haven't seen timetables for the negotiation of a town community agreement or host community agreement, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we're under DPH's timetable.
Mr. Ellis?
Before Don makes a motion, I have a mundane question. To prevent dumpster divers from going into.
I was going to ask that question.
How do you deal with that?
We are actually not allowed to even have a dumpster on the property. It's actually illegal, so almost everything in the plant is actually used in some way, whether it's in extracts or processed. Any waste that we actually have, which is very minimal, we'd probably take up to, what town is it? Rochester, where they have a facility where they, so that's all in our protocols too, where they safely dispose of it. So dumpsters are not even allowed on the property.
I was curious myself.
They're gonna burn it up the chimney.
Anaerobic, no,
Anaerobic
instead of burning,
digestion.
we could do the anaerobic digestion at the landfill.
Well, there's other, yeah, that's actually a possibility.
You have a lovely landfill right down the street.
Yeah, well, we're,
Let's not go there this
yeah,
evening.
that's.
Let's stay off the landfill.
It does get the wheels turning.
We're not that
I have
festive
two,
yet.
I have two quick questions, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Please, Mr. Grinnell,
The
bring us back.
Holliston agreement that you currently, excuse me, have, will you pursue that in addition to Bourne?
So under this, under one license, we can have 2 locations that do all 3.
Yeah,
Or one location that does all 3, okay? So we can only have one cultivating and processing facility per dispensary. So we
Correct.
couldn't have one in both towns. So
unless you were providing,
unless we had an additional application in, with an addition, which is that
Additional
list he had,
dispensary.
that list, Mr. Picard had.
Okay.
That would have another dispensary, so.
excuse me, okay, thank you. I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mulvey?
The word processing comes to mind. That would be the growth of the plant and the budding and so on and so forth. Does it also get into the production of oils or edibles?
So the word processing suppose it could also be manufacturing. That's what DPH uses, the word processing. So cultivating is the actual growth of the plant, and then processing is actually turning it into whatever, either edibles, oils, salves, balms, all of that type of stuff is the processing component.
Brownies?
Who said that?
I said that.
And we're actually, again, under Massachusetts law, not allowed to, we won't be having anything that's candies, child-friendly, bright colors, nothing like that. It's very, we're gonna be offering lock boxes, because like medications, you have to keep it safe from pets, children, all of that. So, we're kind of thinking through all those different options for safety.
One of the components that we want to highlight is educating the families and the patients around, especially around safety. That's my role in particular. I come from a background in education and then as well follow up with the substance abuse and mental health. So important to us.
And the average age of a patient in Massachusetts, for the facilities that have opened, is about 43. The average age, and they've been only open for, 6 months at this point. The average age for patients in Maine who have been going for about 4 years is 54. So it's not like you have, 20-year-olds lining up on the street. This is people who are, the patients that are using it are, maybe have never used it before, or it's been a long time. So, in educating them, we're talking to them about proper dosing. We're talking to them about, how to do this storage properly, how to store it, how to use it. So, it's a lot that goes into this process.
If the Commonwealth should approve recreational use of marijuana, will that be different? Will it be, I don't understand on how that's gonna happen, but if,
And I don't think anyone understands,
okay.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
the
how that's gonna
dispensaries that
happen
are doing
until-
medical marijuana are not overnight gonna become the Walmart of marijuana?
Not overnight.
Okay.
Now, we're planning to stand behind our mission, even if it does become recreational, that we would still provide, again, what recreational users are not looking for, which is the high CBD, low psychoactive, more medicinal component. You know, your recreational user is not looking for a balm to rub on their, itchy skin, or their back where they're having back spasms. So we are committed to providing those options, and, being that we will be kind of more of a medical office type, I don't know that we'll have the draw of maybe some of the bigger, dispensaries.
Other questions, gentlemen?
So you're saying is this more of a synthetic product?
No, this is not, it's
Organic.
not the synthetic product, yeah.
Anyone else? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Picard?
based upon a couple of factors, your timeline coming into the holidays, and there was a concern about the close proximity to an apartment complex, and I'd like to see I'd like to have the town administrator receive the copies of the letters from the other communities, and perhaps any agreements. I'd propose making I would move to table this till our first meeting in February.
February?
And to give the public a chance to weigh in. We have already approved one facility. I think it might be beneficial to take some public comment if anybody's interested as well.
Second?
Okay, I have motion made and seconded. Let me see if I can give us a date, time certain, so I can help everyone with their calendars.
Don't be texting now.
I'm not gonna text. I see that either the 2nd or the 9th, the 9th being special town meeting. I would say that would be the 2nd.
The 8th is a special town
Town
meeting.
meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
looking,
So we
so-
generally would not meet the 9th in case town meeting goes into a second
Right.
night.
yeah.
Yes.
So I'd say February 2nd, gentlemen, is that, motion's been made and seconded to table this discussion to allow additional input and collection of additional information until February 2nd. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion, was that a, okay, unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now,
Thank you.
You have my information, I believe, about an email address and so forth, so you can certainly send any information that you feel would be helpful to the board, to either myself or to the town administrator, and it'll get dispensed.
Sounds good.
And if there's information that you want passed on to the public, we'll see how we can try to do that as well.
Great.
Just so long as it's just the information
that-
getting dispensed.
That's correct. Yeah.
Is that
Cultivated.
workable? I mean, it is what the board is, but I mean,
Yeah, we will, go with the process. One thing that's kind of unfortunate is when we went through the process with Fairhaven, we had a much longer courting period with the town, where we were able to get to know people, get to know us. So unfortunately, the timetable given to us by DPH, we were kind of under fire. So, we'll go through the process.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
all very much for coming in tonight.
Thanks.
Okay, we are up to item 8 on tonight's agenda. Laura Kelly, who is the director of the Protect Our Cape Cod Aquifer.
I don't see her here.
Here this evening?
no, I expected her.
Mrs. Manta, would you like to come up, just to start us off, maybe? Is there a chance that Laura's outside of the meeting room?
I believe she's in Dennis.
She's in Dennis, okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, why don't we,
That's just a hunt. 'cause I think
Okay.
She should be here.
why don't we go ahead and open the agenda item and leave it to see if the board would like to continue this at another evening to allow Laura to appear.
I would suggest that.
All right? Would you like to do this now, or would you like to come back when Laura's here and we have,
To my, I would like to speak now on.
I would give you the podium and the
Thank
floor.
you.
Thank you.
I believe I'm gonna ask you at this time, I know that Laura has other requests on the table, and I did receive a message from her today, saying that she felt that she didn't actually need to be here for you to look at this request. And I have told her how I feel about this bill, and I'm gonna ask you not to endorse this bill by Senator Wolf. There are quite a few reasons for that.
Let me just give a little background information for
sure.
both the audience. There's been a bill that's been filed by Senator Dan Wolf. It's Bill S-478 to the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources to allow towns to stop herbicide spraying along town-owned and privately owned rights of way. So with that, I'd go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Well, I have some numerous reasons, but the first one being especially the part about the private right, the ownership of these rights of ways. Some of these rights of ways are owned privately by residents. Some are owned by the town of Bourne. The easements, the controlling easements on these properties is something that this bill does not address and is very important because, for instance, in the case of right-of-way 242 in Bournedale, in which the town of Bourne owns a portion, as well as private residents, the controlling easement on that property says that the owner has the restriction of, they can cultivate the property, in other words. So in other words, Eversource does not own the property. The town of Bourne does, and those private property owners own it. And the controlling easement stating that the owner reserves the right to cultivate. Well, how can you cultivate the land or farm it or grow or do whatever you want? Maybe the town of Bourne might want to use that property. You can't do that in spraying these types of herbicides on the property. The other issue is that Eversource has a 100-foot right of easement, a swath. They do not, I believe, have the right to interfere with property outside of that 100-foot swath. And that is something that I wanted to see go to court. Because this is what this bill, I really feel that the bill would hinder the town and also the private property owner from going forward and stopping the spraying. The bill defaults to spraying, and I'm very concerned about the language regarding the arbitration. Is that arbitration binding? I don't know. And even if it isn't, that's not a good thing. And in terms of writing to the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, the problem with the pesticide regulations as they stand right now is that they are not written into the Mass General Law. And without those regulations actually being written into the law, there's no way of really truly enforcing them. And they're not being enforced. MDR has repeatedly continued to license Eversource, even though they have hundreds of complaints. Very similar to the ones that I had that I brought before you last year. Every town on Cape Cod, as you know, is in opposition to the spraying, and every communication I've had with MDR is telling me they're afraid not to license Eversource, even though they know about these violations. I feel that this bill will just make Eversource more powerful, and we're giving them the leverage to do whatever they want. And I don't think that the town or the people or the state should be run by a big business like that. So those are some of my objections to this bill. And MDR absolutely has had a lack of response to people with complaints of exposures. I guess Seahorse Farm in Harwich is the main one. I mean, bodily spraying, and they still won't stop this spraying. I just do not believe that we should take away the rights of the people here and being able to go into land court if necessary and have a judge decide, can they spray on that 100 feet? These herbicides can migrate through the soil, and they don't have the right to interfere with trees or property or people outside of that 100-foot right-of-way. And in some of the property owners' cases, they were using the right-of-way. It's very close to their wells or right on top of their water. I think we got into that too. I think some of the other things Laura Kelly may ask of you might be more appropriate than this letter. I'm hoping that this bill dies. I really do. I feel so strongly about it that I would definitely speak out further on the matter to prevent that bill from passing. As it stands right now, I have an agreement with Eversource that protects a good portion of the town of Bourne's easement. They will not spray west of the Herring River on right-of-way 242 to Bournedale Road. And if this bill were in place, I'm not so sure where does that leave any of us, or the town for that matter? Does that preclude us from going into court to look into these other issues? And one of the herbicides they're spraying heavily now is glyphosate, which has now been determined since the last time I was here that it is a carcinogen. The state of Massachusetts has a waiver in this state for testing the water. Now, when I talked to the EPA in Boston, they told me that in order to have that waiver in place, the state had to show that that particular herbicide wasn't used in abundance. In other words, they're not expecting glyphosate to show up in the water, so there's no reason to test for it. And we're not heavily using it for agricultural purposes. However, now we are, because Eversource is now spraying this every place, and they're spraying it right on top of, right near and on top of the municipal wells and the aquifer. The aquifer is probably less than 100 feet. And their regulations, if you really read the pesticide regulations, if you ever get a chance to do it, you'll see it doesn't make sense. They can spray it so many feet from a municipal well, but closer to a private, it's all the same. And the soil is so permeable here. I do not see how that waiver makes sense, because soil.
If I might just
Yep.
interrupt, Mrs. Manda, your concern is that the proposed bill may not allow?
Yeah, I don't believe it will allow the town or private citizen to go into court and protect the property because of the arbitration. The bill is saying on privately owned right-of-ways. Well, the vehicle for that is land court. Eversource entered into an agreement with each property owner, and there's an easement agreement. So for instance, this is my problem with it. My piece of property says that Eversource has the right to cut, trim, and delimb, and it says only. There are all kinds of people that have.
Now, that's an
these.
agreement that you particularly have as a private.
That's on my deed, yes.
It's
Yep.
recorded on your deed?
Yes.
Okay.
The town of Bourne has something very similar in its history on right-of-way 242. The controlling, you have to remember, the original property owner conveyed the right, and that carries from property owner to property owner. In this particular case, it was Mr. Bernard Harkins. He owned this huge tract of land. The town of Bourne acquired the land, and so that controlling easement still says that you have the right to cultivate. And so didn't Mr. and Mrs. Flynn and anyone else who owns property into the right-of-way. And so we were prepared to actually go into land court and ask the land court to determine, does Eversource have the right now to come in and spray herbicides on our private property, reserving the right to cultivate that land? That was one issue. And the other issue was when they're doing something that affects property outside of the easement, and you have to remember that this does. It is not confined to the 100 feet. So we thought it was a court-worthy expedition. Eversource didn't think so. They didn't want to do it. And they entered into that agreement not to spray that portion.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, I think this is,
No, you've
I think you
brought
see the
up
point.
some excellent objections to the bill, that I'll just open it up for questions to members of the board real quickly.
Hold on
Go
for
ahead.
a
No,
second.
I just, being as the proponent is not here, I have a couple of ideas. Number one, I believe we should table the discussion until a meeting in February, getting through the holidays. 2, I believe that we should have asked the town administrator to contact his colleagues Cape-wide and see what they've done. 3, I think we should reach out to Senator DiMacedo's office. He has a legislative director who I believe is also an attorney, and find out whether, where they see this bill at and whether or not it's, as Ms. Manter said, some sort of a issue where Eversource seems to be trying to get out of any type of litigation in the future. So there's a couple of action items there I think might be well advised, but I do think we should put this off and not take a position on it tonight.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ellis?
I'd respectfully request through you to Mr. Guarino that you notify Mrs. Manta when this is gonna be on the agenda again, to give her an opportunity to come back in. I'm very familiar with the land that she's talking about. She is 1,000% correct in how that land was potentially damaged. And if she could give us a page or two of an oversight of your argument that could be dispensed through you, Mr. Chairman, for us to look at, as well as the other things that Donna has requested, I think it would be in the best interests of all the people, and particularly Mrs. Manter and the people who live up in the area where she is.
Thank you, Jerry. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to ask Mrs. Manter, have you spoken with Senator Wolf or anyone from his staff with regard to your concerns
Oh,
about this
yes.
question?
Yes,
And
yes,
what kind of
yes.
feedback are you getting?
Well, I emailed him, I did talk to him, and I believe he didn't respond to me directly, but I noticed the wording of the bill did change somewhat significantly with more levels, or should I say layers of arbitration. But anything that leaves it, the ballpark, to Eversource, to in the end say, we can just spray wherever they want, if an agreement can't be reached, is wrong. Absolutely wrong. Because they are doing it knowingly poisoning people. They knowingly poisoned people in my neighborhood, and I have another person who has come forward with the same neurological symptoms that I had, and we're now trying to determine we're right back in that time frame again, between 2006 and 2008. And I'm starting to believe, on that note, that we need more help in that area. They should not be coming into a residential neighborhood, spraying like this everywhere. And so now we don't know what's doing what. But if Mass Department of Agricultural Resources will not investigate these cases, and again, I'm saying, they are outside of their own regulations. I would like to have every opportunity, like any other private property owner, to hire a lawyer and go into court and let it be decided there, because they're not protecting our best interest.
Thank you, Mrs. Manta.
Do you think, just for the people at home, we should read that middle paragraph just so that people understand what we're talking about? The paragraph that she has an issue with is if the municipality or water district and the entity seeking to control the vegetation are unable to come to an agreement regarding a non-spray approach to vegetation management within 60 days of beginning discussion, the disputed issues shall be decided by arbitration using an arbiter mutually agreed by the parties. If the parties are unable to agree with the arbiter within 15 days, each party shall choose one arbiter each, and those selected then determine the disputed issues within 15 days. If that's not possible, then a third arbiter will be appointed within 15 days from the date, and the third arbiter agrees to participate. Not in the session shall present the parties from using an organization such as American Arbitration Association. If no reasonable no-spray agreement is offered to the municipality and an agreement is not reached within 90 days after the date of the offer, the public utility at its own option may apply pesticides approved by Mass Department of Agriculture in its right of way, or use other methods to control the vegetation. To me, this is just a big license to filibust and to stall and basically eventually get what they want, and this is not in the best interest of the residents or the people that live in the area, and that's why I think someone from Mr. Wolf's office should be here in February to defend his own bill. But it says here that Tim Madden, Sarah Peak also signed on to the bill, so this is a Democratic delegation down Cape. And I would like to know why they signed on to a bill that is going to harm individuals or people potentially.
Okay, so,
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest February 16th?
all right, I agree. Is that agreeable to all the members?
Sure.
All right, is there a motion?
Move to table to February 16th, and I believe that the administrator knows what his plan of action is going to
Second.
be.
Okay, I've got a motion made, and
Well
Second.
spelt out.
seconded.
Discussion requested.
Excuse me, yes, go ahead, Mary Jane?
This is very interesting that after 90 days, they can go ahead and spray. I actually think that you should table it, but I think you should also communicate to Senator Wolf's office that you have serious concerns about, especially about this section. If anyone's going to go ahead, they should go ahead. They should be able to go ahead without spraying to maintain their property. You know, it should be defending the rights of the individual, not the rights of the corporation in that fallback position. And just that, I think it would be good to say we have serious concerns about the way this is written and invite you to come back on the 16th, so.
Thank you, Mary
She
Jane.
took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay. Everybody know what we're gonna do? All right. Got a motion made and seconded to table this until February 16th, Tuesday evening. We'll notify Mrs. Manter and also request some information back from Senator Wolf's office as well. Maybe we can help get some additional information or a presentation regarding the bill. On that motion,
Of course, we'll also notify Ms. Kelly to
yes.
come back.
Yeah, I've already have that on the.
On that motion, all those in favor of tabling until the 16th, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Mrs. Manta, very much for coming in. Item 9 is a discussion relative to the use of wage monies within the Board of Selectmen's office for additional, well, for the continuation of administrative support. You want to walk us through this a bit, Tom?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, and it's only because it's in your side of the budget that I come here tonight, and given the concerns that we've had with spending money and the board's concern thereof. We have an employee that is in the Board of Selectmen Town Administrator's Office, whose position was to be eliminated effective December 31st with the failure of the override to pass. In the past several weeks, we've been notified that another member of the staff will be out of the office pretty much all of February, probably all of March, and perhaps into April as well. The third party in the office is primarily tasked to do work on the sewer issues in the town, and that leaves me. And as much as I can do a lot, depending on who you ask, Huh? I love sewers. I cannot, she and I cannot maintain the office ourselves, and I'm asking, there's about $4,500 remaining in the $5,000 appropriation for wage money. And that would carry the part-time employee through just about through the end of March, and give us sufficient time for any delay in a person coming back. So I'm asking the board to authorize the use of their money, because it's in the selectmen's budget, not the town administrator's line, to keep this person on through the end of March at a minimum.
Do you have line items in dollars, or do you have a dollar amount so we can?
Well, it's about $1,433 a month, times 3 months, so it's $2,900, it's about $4,300, $4,200 overall. I just would like the authorization for the $4,500.
If we
Mr. Meyer?
did, I'm
Yep,
sorry,
that's right.
if we didn't approve this authorization, would you be no other choice but to go to Finance Committee for a reserve fund transfer? I was asking.
Well, there's
procedurally.
the short answer to that is yes. I'm looking at some other things to move it forward after town meeting, but for the purposes of what I have to do tonight, to get this solidified, to be sure that we're properly staffed in our offices, that's what I need to do now. It's appropriated, it can be spent. I can spend it, but given that we've been in this particular framework with the override and so forth, I thought it appropriate to bring it to the selectmen.
Questions, Mr. Blanton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quickly, Tom, is the use of that monies in this particular area going to, is it going to negatively impact use in another area?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion,
Mr. Ellis?
a motion that we approve use of these monies as requested by Mr. Guarino.
Second.
Okay, just for the sake, I'm going to mention the $4,500 in that motion. Okay, I've got a motion that's been made and seconded to allow the town administrator to transfer from available wage monies $4,500 for the use of paying a part-time employee to extend into the months of February, March, and April, perhaps. We'll leave it at that. I've got a motion that's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much,
I
gentlemen.
appreciate the board's movement on
too.
that. Thank you.
Having been in the office a little bit this last couple of months. Under Selectmen's business, there is a deadline for submitting private petition articles for the February 8th, 2016 special town meeting, and that is December 28th, 2015.
That has both been reviewed and re-reviewed by my office and that of the office of the town clerk.
Okay. Although it's not specifically on the agenda, I might just take a moment. I had sent out to everyone after the last meeting a discussion of liaisons. And as soon as I typed up the notes from the last meeting, I realized that some people don't have anything, and some people have a lot, and other people have a whole lot. That's for the town administrator. So, is there any adjustments that anyone would like to offer, now that you've seen it in writing?
Well, I had a discussion with the town administrator last Friday about this, and I feel that the DPW, the facilities, and the sewer can be reallocated to someone else.
All right. So that, yeah. I'm sorry, what was the third one, Peter?
DPW
Sewer,
sewer.
facilities, okay, yep. So that would leave you with the recreation, community building, council on aging, and schools.
Yeah, and Michael and I are gonna be working in the library together. So it's basically we'll have the human services arms, services.
Excuse me. Just a note. I see that it's still vacant here on your draft of December 8. I volunteered to do the capital planning page too,
Okay,
having served in that committee.
anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ellis?
I'll take the Department of Public Works.
Thank you, Jerry.
Can you combine sewer with that too, Don? If that's all right, Mr. Chairman?
If you can get in there with me.
Absolutely. Love sewers.
All right, well, don't touch that one. Facilities,
That's part of it. It's part of facilities. Oh, I'm sorry.
Because Jonathan,
Jonathan. I can do that if you want with the town administrator. I've got a long list, but those are relatively mundane, easy to do town hall stuff, so. Anything else by anybody? That'll become it. I can send this off. I'll notify Mary Jane with this list so she can start combining her people and so forth.
And the Human Services Committee will be,
Oh, yes, Human Services.
it will
Thank
be
you, Peter.
Michael and I, since we are doing the Human Services
That's
side of the
right.
budget.
I note to both members of the board that during the discussions on the override, just so you know, the human service funding was to be eliminated with the exception of the Visiting Nurse Association.
Right.
However, we have a February town meeting coming up, and we may want to look at reallocation of resources to be, if it being cut or spent in the best interest of the people in town, the services in town, i.e. maybe this building and the function of the library and other things, so.
Absolutely, Mr. Meyer, you certainly will want to look at that.
Mr. Chairman,
Jerry?
through you to Tom, how are we doing with the bus driver?
We are secured through with $9,000, and that is one of the areas also that we'll be looking in February at. I continue to seek outside funding sources for that.
We're relatively secure.
We're secure for a couple of more months.
Thank you.
To fund that for a 6-month period, I need about $25,000.
Okay.
Anything else relative to liaisons? Hearing and seeing none, okay. We'll call it a final draft, we'll get that out. I appreciate your help, gentlemen. Let me see, Town Administrator's Report, item 11 on our agenda this
I
evening.
only have a couple items, Mr. Chairman.
Are we, did we forget one thing on the selectmen's business not on the agenda?
I'm not sure, Mr. Meyer, because it's not on the agenda.
No, but you said you were gonna do it on the selectmen's business.
Which, what was
The
that?
appointment of a member that, we told some members that would be on this week's agenda to appoint them to different committees, and it's not on here, and you said you were gonna take.
Ones. In my
Human
mind-
Services
My
Committee.
mind. I'm sorry?
No, the Human Services Committee, was one.
I just
person.
wrote down Peter and Michael.
No, we're talking about the appointment of, you know,
Citizen
a
appointments.
citizen appointment. We said at the last meeting that they would come to this meeting on the 15th to be appointed to serve on, I think she applied to be on the Human Services Committee, and Dave Palancy applied to be on,
I'm sorry.
I can go online right now with permission.
No,
to
I don't want to go online right now.
And
but-
read the last agenda.
We're not supposed to have electronic devices on.
I'm asking.
Well, let's win it now. Wait a minute now. What,
We told, at the last meeting, we told some, we had on the agenda, we led three correspondence into the record stating that we would,
ah,
and in those correspondence, you said at the next meeting, we would be appointing these members to their respective
we're not going to
committees.
swear him in, but I
You can't-
That's where I'm
understand.
at, but, you know,
I
appoint
understand
them.
what you're referring
You
to now.
can't appoint it. It's not.
It's not on the agenda.
So now, that's fine. I mean, so maybe you misunderstood what I was asking about earlier when I asked you the question.
I did misunderstand. I thought you were referring to the liaisons, and I apologize to the members of the audience if they're here for that, because we didn't include it on the agenda. It would not be allowed to be acted upon this evening. I apologize.
Could you please make sure that it's on for the first meeting in January when we come back from Christmas
I will
break?
absolutely make sure, and we'll notify those individuals as well.
We'll have 3 different appointments that night then.
That's right.
That's right. My
4,
apologies,
Actually 4.
ladies.
There was library maintenance. Human
Recreation.
services, Recreation.
Yeah.
That wasn't for tonight, but that's,
Okay, we got that clear?
Yep.
And I apologize again. Okay. I'm gonna blame you for that.
okay.
All right.
No, wait a minute. That's my job.
But you've been so good lately,
Oh.
Don.
You can tell it's near the end of the year. All right. Mr. Garino, you want to take us through a few items you've got on your?
Just a couple of things.
Thank you.
We have had our initial meeting with Mr. Siolik
Yes.
on the 208 and other financial-related issues. Linda and I met with him last week. We will meet again on Friday morning of this week.
Yep.
Okay, so just so we know, we're moving on that. Relative to VizGov, we had our last meeting today. We thought we would go live tomorrow. We found a glitch relative on the software side on how some of the decimal points were extrapolated. So if we looked online and we had $6.51 million an account, we'll use free cash as an example, it would post as 7 million. And we didn't want to have a $500,000 variance there. So they need to broaden out the,
What was it, rounding errors?
yeah, well,
Okay.
yeah, rounding errors. So we expect that it will go live next week. And at the very latest by the 31st, but we expect it to go live next week. We expected it to go live tomorrow. We're very pleased with it. We have some notations to put in a couple areas as we move it forward. It will be prominently placed both on the new events type on the website, and it will also be linked to the finance page as well as a page for the town administrator. So there'll be a number of other areas to get that from. So we're there. It's just there were a couple of minor glitches in the last meeting today. All of the layoff notices have been on the initial at Town Hall and other places have been done. We're still in a step-down bumping area as it relates to one of the departments, and that will be completed by week's end. Barring, there's a net 4 loss.
Employees.
Something could happen where it may be a net 2 at the end because of some positions that have opened up on where people have applied, but they have to be hired. And,
Okay.
But for that, it's 4 more. And that's in addition to what was done
In the spring.
in the spring with the additional $250,000 plus that the selectmen requested to come out of the budget prior to town meeting.
Anything else, Tom?
It's been a kind of a hard year as we wind down for the last meeting of the year. I think this board has worked extremely hard, well together overall. And I thank you for that, and I wish everyone in town and here, members of my board, a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday Season, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
Okay.
Also with you.
Members of the board, anything this evening?
We got some emails earlier today back and forth on the Bourne and Sandwich reciprocity issue. That should be put to bed hopefully soon.
I don't expect that the selectmen will have issue with what has been requested by Sandwich on that, which is, but I do,
I brought it with me if you'd
but
like.
I will need to have in January, I'm going to give Bud a go-ahead on that, but the Board of Selectmen would need to amend the beach regulations to allow resident rate beach stickers for the shellfish people from Sandwich. And it makes sense. It makes sense, and they're not asking for a lot, and it's kind of a fair piece. Bud and I have been working on this for quite a few weeks, and
Just for the people that, this is a request by the town of Bourne for allowing Bourne residents to receive beach sticker permits in Sandwich,
up to 200.
up to 200 residents. And now Sandwich has come back and said that they would like to do that, but they'd also like to have beach parking permits for the shellfishing permits which they already receive available to their residents.
Those that receive the shellfish permits.
Yeah.
Right. So they have someplace to park when they come over to do shellfishing.
Is that an additional fee or increase?
It would be an additional
Additional fee.
$35 fee.
Additional fee
Yeah.
for parking.
As
Yeah.
opposed to the $50 fee or whatever.
So that is where the negotiations have sat. Paul, a question? Okay. Anything else?
No,
Unless there's strong opposition from the board on that, I'm gonna move ahead with it. And we'll have you change the regulations in January.
It's a great first step.
It's the final step, I hope.
You might be able to go over and ride the zip line at the Heritage.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Anything else, Peter?
no, just happy holidays to everybody. Hope everybody has a safe holiday going forward and
Okay.
stay safe out there.
Picard, anything this evening?
No, I think I'll pass. I think everybody else has said Merry Christmas. I don't need to.
Humbug.
You could say humbug.
Michael?
We'll refrain from being grinchy and actually praise Mr. Picard for chairing a nice meeting that most of us attended over there at the Cape Cod Selectmen and Councils Association last week at the Daniel Webster Inn. Tackled the issue of homelessness. The assistant manager of the town of Barnstable, a couple of different folks from some of the nonprofits that hit on that issue. It's a pressing problem that we on the Cape struggle with, and was pointed on out, none of us really budget as a municipality to probably handle the problems adequately. So it's a spirited discussion. Hopefully we'll look forward to some more discussions down the road. That's all I have to say, other than happy holidays to everybody in town.
Thank you for those kudos, if I may.
You deserve
If
it.
you ever want to become the president of an association with a bunch of politicians, just try to get through the introductions. Everybody wants to hear themselves talk.
I'm gonna refrain for a
It's
while,
just
sir.
brutal.
Anything, Mr. Ellis, this evening?
Yeah, I'd just like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year, and a very prosperous one. And Merry Christmas to the town of Bourne.
Very good, thank you. Paul, question?
Before you go to Christmas, could you guys do a quick update on the new DPW facility?
Wonderful.
What,
Pretty looking thing? Is it open and operating and ready for winter and all that
Oh,
stuff?
yeah.
Yes, it is.
yeah, it is.
They already got deliveries of salt, didn't they?
Ribbon cutting,
I was told from the chairman of the DPW working group that would probably be the spring before they do it, because they want to get the bugs the kinks worked out and get through the winter first.
There's a couple of pieces that still have to be finalized. The enclosure of the, what I call the cold storage area, which will also house an office, not an office, but an area for the carpentry shop and, but overall, ready for winter, ready to go, salt shed stocked.
Few islands done.
Yeah, the fuel island is done. We expect to start pumping, we're not pumping right now, by the first of the year as well. Diesel is ready to go.
and all the equipment is up there from the old place?
90% of the equipment is up there from the old place. There's still some movement of some of the smaller stuff that needs to come. It is a wonderful facility, and they're very happy to be working in it.
And
Yeah.
you have a ceremony in the springtime, maybe?
That's what I was told,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Okay. I would just like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas as well. And I'd also like to recognize the men and women from both the fire department and police department, which participated in the Homeless for the Holidays this past week. Another outstanding year, and they were blessed with much warmer weather than they've seen in the past. But thank you very much to all those folks. So with that, gentlemen, if there's no other business before us this evening,
motion to adjourn.
Second.
thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you all very much this evening, and thank you for the year.
12 million.